at that time, and she walked through the door, and our eyes met, and it was literally love at first sight. Man, I chased her around, and I was doing everything that I could to get her to pay attention to me, and she was like, eh. I asked her out on a date, and she said yes, and then I found out later that she had gone out on a date with another guy earlier that same day. He took her to a fancy Italian restaurant. I took her to the grocery store to get fried chicken. And we went out and did outreach in a poor neighborhood there in that. But man, I remember that, and I'm like, wow, she is just the greatest thing ever. And I still believe that. But you know what? In our course of 23 years of marriage, there's been tensions. There's been conflicts. You know why? Because at best, we are two sinful people that have come together to what God has called marriage. And it's a wonderful thing. But man, when that sinful heart starts jumping in and jumps in every once in a while, what does it produce? It produces conflicts, does it not? And so conflicts are inevitable in marriage, other relationships, even with our children. In Matthew chapter 11, or Matthew chapter 7, and verse number 11, I'm going to read this to you because, you know, us parents that think that we have it all together and that we are just like the model parents for everybody should be like us. Notice what Jesus says to these parents about their children. And he's talking to parents, and he says, if ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children. Now, what kind of way is that for Jesus to talk about parents? If you evil parents know how to give good gifts unto your children, do we sometimes have conflict with our children? Like, oh, I just wish he'd stop crying. Oh, I just wish that they would learn this. I wish that they would learn to do whatever. You know why? Because they're sinners. You know why we get so upset and frustrated? Because we're sinners. Sin and conflict is inevitable. We need to expect it to happen. Now, do kids get a pass? No. Scripture says about them, Psalm 51:5, behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin my mother conceived me. Proverbs 22 says that foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. So you have the terrible twos, and then you have the terrifying threes, and all of that goes on with that. But what is that? That's a progressive unpacking of our sinful nature. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Say, you know what, Pastor Tim? I know and understand that the marriages have conflicts. I understand that we have them between parents and children and even co-workers at church. But Pastor Tim, there's one thing that I'm just so thankful for. I'm thankful that there is one institution in which I can go and I can come together with other people and there will be no chance, no problem of tension or conflict, and that is the church. Now, is that true? No. No! It's not. Man, I have met some of the most wonderful people here this weekend. I could just go around and just squeeze all of you, okay? And we love one another, okay? But you know what we're all on? We're sinners. And you know what sinners do? They sin. And you know what sin always does? It separates. Sin always separates. So how do we approach conflict? We view it as, you know what, it happens. It's inevitable. The second one, conflicts are sinful, resolve them. How do we respond to conflict? God calls us to resolve them actively. They don't take care of themselves. Right. So we need to make strenuous effort to reconcile relationships. We don't postpone, we don't procrastinate. And I'll be honest with you here, transparent, my wife will tell you, okay? If I have a fault, and I think I have one, if I have a fault, it's this one, I hate conflict. And I just want everybody to be at peace, and oftentimes I just hope that, man, it'll go away. So when I'm talking to you this morning, I'm talking to myself. But Jesus says this about making reconciliation in Matthew 5. It says this, it says, if you bring your gift to the altar, verses 23 through 25. Why don't you go ahead and turn there with me? Okay, so what do we do? Okay, we need to resolve conflicts. What does that look like? What are we supposed to do? Let's look at Matthew 5, 23 through 25. It says, if you bring your gift to the altar, or we can even kind of put it like this, if you come to church, and you remember that your brother has something against you, what does it say to do? Leave your gift there before the altar and go your way. What's the very next word? First. First be reconciled to your brother, and then what? Then come and offer your gift. Agree with your adversary quickly while you are on the way with him, lest your adversary deliver you to the judge hand you over to the officer, and you be thrown into prison. But it says this, before you come to God and leave your gift at the altar, you know what it says? First go and be reconciled to your brother. That's why I asked you yesterday this. How many of you here say that God speaks to me today that I'm willing to do whatever it is that he asks me to do? Some of you, maybe even within this room right here, have tensions with somebody else. Okay, I don't know. I haven't seen it. But in a church this size, there's a very good possibility that you've had words with somebody, or you've had conflict or a run-in. You know what you need to do before the day's over, before you leave to go back home? You need to go to them, and you need to say, you know what? When we had that conflict, when we had that run-in, when we had that spar, you know, I responded wrong. Or what I said was wrong, and I'm asking you to forgive me. And then you know what you can do? Then you can go to God and you can freely give him that offering. Okay? But it says here, first you need to go to your brother. There might be some husbands and wives that need to do that. There might be some parents and children, or children and parents that need to do those types of things. So we don't just, we expect them to happen, but we're to resolve them, and we're supposed to resolve them in a quick manner. If you go to Matthew chapter 18, which is a passage that as a church, I'm sure your pastor has gone over that with you, but if you look at verse 15 and 16, it talks about how if your brother has sinned against you, you go and you show him his fault just between the two of you. In other words, if I have a conflict with Erwin, Pastor Erwin, I'm not going to go and talk to Eddie about my conflict with me and Pastor Erwin. I'm going to go to Pastor Erwin. Now, if Pastor Erwin and I cannot get it settled according to Matthew 18, and it's a church issue, you know what I do? Then I need to go to 2 or 3 witnesses, and I would say, Eddie, you know, I don't want to run Pastor Erwin down or anything, but I need you and a couple other men. We need to go to Pastor Erwin because I've gone to him and I'm trying to get this resolved, and he will not hear me and he will not listen to me, and I need help and accountability. And then you take 2 or 3 witnesses with you. And then if that doesn't happen, what do, Brother Erwin? Then you take it to the whole entire church. Why? Because God says this, says, man, you can't have conflict in the church. Because conflict in the church destroys. Right. It's sin. And sin always what? Separates. Sin always separates. Right. Now, let me just run down some more verses. I think these are in your notes here. The Bible talks about how we are to pursue peace. Acts 24:16. This being so, I myself always strive to have a conscience without offense towards God and men. Romans 12:18. If it be possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Romans 14:19. Therefore, let us pursue the things which make for peace, and the things by which one may edify another. Ephesians 4:3. Endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. 2 Timothy 2:22. Flee also youthful lust. Pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. Look at, it says this, pursue peace with all people and holiness, without which no one will see the Lord. Notice the urgency in those half dozen verses. Go after peace. Ensue it. Pursue it. We talked about it yesterday. Don't let the sun go down upon your wrath. Take care of today's problems today, because tomorrow will have a whole new set of their own. Okay? Go after it. Be reconciled. Pursue peace. So conflict is going to come. We got to resolve them. But 3, and this is the best part, okay? Conflicts are actually opportunities. So we want to seize them. Now you might say, Pastor, really? Opportunities? Conflicts can be opportunities? Yes, they can. Part of the hope of the gospel is that God redeems every hardship that we face, including personal conflict. I can literally, your pastor just mentioned it a few minutes ago, but I can go through and I can tell you story after story after story after story of hard and difficult things that's happened in my life. There's been illness, there's been death, there's been disease, there's been rejection, there's been hurt, and if I went to any of you in this room here, you would be able to tell me the same story. There's been hurt, there's been rejection, there's been disease, there's been death. None of us in here have ever had a storybook life. But we can take the conflicts, we can take the hard and difficult things that God allows to come into our life, and the Bible uses the word redeem, but what that means is He can take them and He can make something awesome and beautiful out of it. Now, one of the nice things about being 13,000 miles away is I can use some illustrations from back home and you'll never even know what I'm talking about. But I want to introduce you to a couple that just recently came to our church. They came in and they hadn't been to church in forever, since they were little kids. But man, their marriage was on the rocks. They had a little boy, and they came in and they come to find out that the husband had been very deep in pornography and had gone and actually done some things that he really shouldn't have, breaking that marriage vow and breaking that marriage covenant. And the wife is just distraught. She's ready to leave him. She don't know what to do. And she's tried other counselors. She's tried self-help things, and none of them worked. And she came in because one of our other church members said, hey, why don't you come in and talk to our pastor? And so they're like, the lady comes in, and this is what she says when she walks down. She's like, you have 1 hour, give it your best shot. So I said, okay. So I hear a little bit about her story, and I begin to share the gospel. And I begin to share how Jesus can transform things and how He has transformed things. And I began to share with her some of the things that God did to transform my life. And at the end, I said, you know what? Is there any way that we can start working through some of these things? And will you give it just one more week? Will you give it just one more week? And at the end, she's like, yeah, I think I'll give it one more week. Time goes by a little bit. I go out, and we were talking about this last night, guys, how it's more than just, you got to dig into people's lives. So I grabbed this guy, and he came, and he was going to help me with a couple projects at the church. And through that time that we were spending there together, I got to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with him, and he trusted Christ as a Savior. The very next time we're meeting together on this whole deal, the husband turns over and looks at the wife, just weeping, and says, you know what? I've sinned against you. I've sinned against our son. I've been wrong. Just weeping, heartbroken, and just says, I'm begging you with every inch of my being. I want to change. I want to do what's right. Will you help me? Will you forgive me? And that wife, with tears in her eyes, says, I don't know if I can. I says, okay, this is a step. Can we go one more week? Okay. She's like, yeah, we'll go one more week. The next week, the wife comes in, It says this at the very first of it. It says, I have something that I need to say before we get into our homework. She's like, I just want to let you know that God's been working in my heart this week. And this is very hard and it's very difficult to say. But I want to forgive you. And I want our marriage to be saved. It went from, you have 1 hour, to now they're in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Sunday school. If the doors are open and Angel and I are there washing windows, they're going to come watch us do it. I mean, they're a fantastic couple. Okay, turn in your Bible to Psalms, okay? This is totally unplanned, but is that okay, Erwin? Okay. Turn in your Bibles to Psalm 119. Okay, go to verse 65, okay? Go to verse 65. I'm going to share something with you guys, okay? Verse 65, it says, Thou hast dealt with thy servant, O Lord, according unto thy word. And notice what the psalmist says to us. He's saying, God, teach me good judgment and knowledge, for I have believed thy commandments. Check out verse 67. These ought to be things that you underline in your Bible. These are great counseling verses, by the way, Pastor Erwin. Before I was afflicted, I went astray. Before those hard and difficult things came into my life, before this conflict was raging, I went astray. But that next word is the word but. But now have I kept thy word. I was going the completely wrong way before that affliction came. But now I've kept thy word. Verse 68. I love this. He's speaking to God, and the context is conflict. And do you know what he says about that affliction? He says, God, you're good, and you do us good. Teach me thy statutes. You know what he's saying? God, in the midst of that difficult time, in the midst of that conflict, you're good. And you're doing good. God, help me not to resist that. Help me not to get angry. Help me not to say you got 1 shot or 1 hour. And instead, Lord, saying, God, teach me. What is it that you want me to learn as a result of this? Verse 69, the psalmist talks about it. It says, the proud have forged a lie against me, but I'm going to keep thy precepts with my whole heart. Their heart is as fat as grease, but I delight in thy law. Verse 71, underline this one. It's good for me that I have been afflicted. What? It's good for me that I've been afflicted. Why? That I might learn thy statutes. Conflicts are opportunities. Instead of us sitting there saying, God, why me? Or, I don't understand why this is happening to me. Or, I don't deserve this. Rather, take a step back and say, God, I don't know why this is happening, and it hurts. And I've got all these emotions raging within me. There's anger, there's frustration, all of that stuff. But this one thing I do know. God, you're good, and you're doing good. God, teach me whatever it is that you want me to learn through this. Okay? How do we approach conflicts? We don't. We say, okay, God, you're good, you're in control, and you know what's going on here. Teach me whatever it is that you want me to learn, because I know before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I have learned. And doesn't that kind of go along with some other verses in the Bible? Don't we know, according to Romans 8:28, that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them that are called according to his purposes? We love to toss that verse out at people when they're going through difficult things. But the truth of the matter is he's always doing good, and he's always working. And even the good and the difficult things is what changes us and makes us more dependent upon God. Okay. Now, man, I really skipped through some stuff, but notice that they give us opportunity to know God in fresh and new ways. God is forgiving. God is pardoning. God empowers us. He helps us to be able to put off sin. God is our protector. When people attack us or mistreat us, he holds us accountable. And so it helps us to know God in fresh new ways. And we see him in a whole different light when these things happen. Second, they give us opportunities to become more like Jesus. Do you remember when Jesus was being crucified on the cross? Do you remember what they said about him? It said when he was mocked and when he was reviled, you know what the Bible says? The Bible says that he opened not his mouth. In other words, he took the fall, as the song says, and thought of me above all. When are we most like Jesus? We're most like Jesus when we're able to handle and respond to persecution and conflict in a way like he does, and like he has. So it gives us opportunities to be more like Jesus. And third, it gives us an opportunity to love and minister to others. And I think I mentioned this maybe yesterday. Back in 1996, we got married. We got married in the state of Mississippi. It was 118 degrees outside the day we got married. My wife thought it would be a good idea to have 120 candles burning inside the building. And the air conditioning unit was up there. The candles were right here. And if you ran the air conditioning unit, it was going to blow out the candles. Okay? And so we're literally up there, and they bring us up there, and you pray at the altar, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's so sweet." They're up there crying. And the reality is we were wiping sweat off of our face for that. But man, that was the greatest day of my life, apart from my salvation, was the day that I married Angela. But at that time, my mom was out in the crowd, and she was weeping. I mean, she was just crying. I mean, like wailing, crying, because I was her baby boy. But she was also coughing. And we live up north in Michigan, and she just thought it was allergies. She thought it was, just change of weather. That'll kind of do something to your respiratory system. And then, weeks go on, and she's still coughing, and so they're treating her for pneumonia, and they're treating her for all these things. Well, anyways, October rolls around, and I get a phone call from my mom. And she says, "Honey, I got to tell you something." I'm like, "Okay, Mom, what's going on?" What did the doctor say? And the doctor says, "Honey, I'm sorry, but the doctor says that your mom has cancer, lung cancer." And I remember sitting there praying to God and saying, "God, you can't take my mom." My mom and I were very, very close, very, very tight. If you knew my family dynamic, Mom was the one that kept everything together. Some of you might understand what I'm talking about there. So this is October. In May, God took my mom home to heaven. And I remember sitting there when we're at the funeral, and it's all over, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, I can't believe she's gone. I don't understand why God would take her. I had a handicapped sister that was completely dependent upon her. And now her caregiver was gone, and Mom was gone. And I'm like, man, I don't understand, God. I don't get it. But there's probably not an event that has happened in my life that God has used in a greater way than the passing of my mom. And here's why. Because I can understand and I can empathize with people who's had loss, who's had great loss. And as a pastor, you know what I do all the time? I was just on the phone with somebody 2 days ago. A lady in our church died. Precious older lady in our church died. And I got on the phone with her daughter, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I don't understand everything that you're going through, but I get it. I understand you hurt, whatever, and I can empathize with them. Why? Because I've gone through it. No, I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't fun. Do I wish that I still had my mom? Absolutely. But instead of, God, I can't believe you do that, and getting angry about what God has done or what He did, we got to take a step back and say, God, you've worked all of these things together, and you've even used the most tragic thing that's ever happened in my life as an opportunity for me to help other people who's gone through the exact same thing. So don't waste your conflicts. Use them as an opportunity. So the next thing we come here as we go through the end, how do we resolve them? Okay, what do we do? Okay, the first one is we got to remember there are 4 G's. They should be in your notes. We got to be asking ourselves this question. How can I glorify God through this? Okay? That ought to be our first question. Instead of being angry, instead of being frustrated, instead of being mad, instead of saying, boom, I want to hit him in the face. Okay? Okay, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, and you guys should have just went through this not too long ago. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says this, whatsoever you eat or drink, or whether therefore you eat or drink, or whatsoever you do all to the glory of God. Now let's insert something in there. Whatever you're going through, however you've been sinned against, whatever conflict arises within your life, respond to it in a way that glorifies God. Okay? So instead of, I want revenge, or I want them to feel the pain that I feel, okay, God, I didn't ask for this. I need your help and I need your wisdom. How can I glorify God in this situation? Turn over to Matthew chapter 7. The second one is this. Get the log out of your own eye. Get the log out of your own eye. Matthew chapter number 7. Again, this is one of those passages that you really need to underline in your Bible. Notice what it says, judge not that you be not judged. For with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. With the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, a plank is in your own eye? Hypocrite! First remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Can I give it to you in a little bit more simple form? Before you can go to somebody else and help them get the splinter out of their eye, the little sliver out of their eye, we got to make sure that we get the big old honking log out of our own. Okay? And this happens a lot. We get so focused on what the other person has done or what the other person has said that we fail to deal with our own sin. And we can't help somebody else with their sin until we've dealt with our own. Okay? So we want to glorify God. We want to get the log out of our own eye. Next one is gently restore, and I love this. Genesis 6:1. Or not Genesis, Galatians chapter 6, verse number 1. It says, brethren, so it's talking to saved people. It says, if a man be overtaken in a fault, okay, if somebody's done something wrong, ye which are spiritual, or those who know the truth, who are mature in their walk with the Lord. What's that next one? Restore. You know what it is to restore something? It's to take, MacGyver back there would know. Okay, to restore something is what? It's to take something that's been damaged, okay, and put it back together like it was brand new. You know what we're to do with our relationships that we've had conflicts with? when they're broken and they're marred up and they're scratched up. We take them, and us who are spiritual are told that we're to restore